Okay, just a quick reminder, this is the second part of the fire prevention and preparedness session. You just attended to the first part. If you have questions about the first part, write them down because we will have a very interesting debate at the end of this part of the session, right? So this second part will have the same structure. Each presenter will have 10 strict minutes to present, and then please keep your questions until the end. We will have a discussion then, right? And I am very happy to present this panel of experts because we've seen nice presentations of researchers and firefighters so far, but now we will have the opportunity to listen to more researchers, but also to people from local government institutions and people from industry. And I'm sure that will be incredibly interesting for all of us. So please pay a lot of attention. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, which you already know. He's Russell Parsons from the U.S. Forest Service, Missoula Fire Sciences Laboratory. And well, he gave an overview of the situation in the U.S. this morning. Now he's going to speak a little bit more in detail about his work regarding fire simulation and fuel simulation. So.
Thank you, Miguel. Bueno, otra vez es un placer estar aquí. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my research. One of the main things we need for advancing our science is this has been brought up several times in the previous discussions, but we need better fire models that are able to understand and provide more detailed predictions of what fires will do. And so one of the motivations for one of the areas that I work in is that we have a need for more robust fire modeling. So I'm a fire modeler, and the kind of topics that I work in this are diverse. I've worked in landscape dynamics and fire regimes. We have a lot of different operational fire modeling systems in the U.S., and I'm very conversant with all of those. And I've worked in forest growth models and stand dynamics. And in the last few years, I've been developing systems that integrate some of these different components, providing inputs from real-world fuels data for simulations with computational fluid dynamics fire models. Boy, I don't know how do you make, is there like a mouse type thing on this thing? Oh. Okay, so over here you can see this is an example of a few simulations using 3D physics fire behavior model. The upper left corner is an untreated stand, and the other three cases are different levels of thinning of that stand, and the simulation is fully 3D physics simulation. That kind of modeling capability enables us to evaluate the effects of fuel treatments, looking at both the different spatial configurations of trees, and also to look with great detail at different fuel changes, such as different changes in forest health that might result from a beetle attack or things like that. So this is one of the areas that I work in. Another important part of this is that it gives us an opportunity to assess the sensitivity of different components that provide variability in fires and fuels, and to assess the relative magnitude of those effects. So another thing that that I work in is in fuel modeling and mapping. So as a fire modeler, one of the most important things we need is good data going into the models. So that's where mapping fuels becomes very important. I've been working in fuel mapping and modeling for some time. Most recently, I've started a project in Oregon where we've been using drones to map fuels. Over here, you can see this is an animation of a drone-based mapping of the fuels. You can use the drones to map basically like collect LiDAR-like data, but it's actually called FODAR because it's a photogrammetrically derived product rather than with the active pulse of laser light like a LiDAR. But anyway, the idea is that with drones we can map the fuels and we can use that to provide inputs to these very detailed fire models. So toward that end, I've been developing this 3D fuel and fire modeling system. For my PhD dissertation, I made a single tree model that's called Fuel 3D that deals with within tree variability, like distribution of biomass within a tree. And then more recently, I've been working in a project called StandFire, which is a system for modeling at stand to small landscape scales. I'm also very interested in developing fuel methods for fuel mapping and for sampling fuels efficiently, and in developing different ways of quantifying attributes of fuels. And another thing that I've been interested in is collecting real-world data, again with the idea that models play an important role in our understanding of fire. Having real-world data sets in which we can evaluate models is a really important component. I'm very interested in collecting research data on prescribed fires, and I have this project that I've been doing for the last couple of years in Oregon, where we've been collecting fire data on fuels, weather, and fire in a lot of different ways. This has been a very exciting project for me. It's been a multidisciplinary project with a lot of different partners, and for me, the drones are really a very important component, game-changing new technology, I think. A lot of LiDAR data in there. And then in conjunction with these other methods of collecting information about these sites, we're doing a lot of sampling on the ground and ground truthing of the imagery. And again, all of this goes together with the idea that you collect very detailed data. You can then model that situation, which gives you an opportunity to evaluate, essentially burn the same site more than once, and see how it might respond to different conditions or different fuel arrangements. So some of the challenges that I encounter in my work are in modeling and mapping of fuels. There's always this battle between abstraction of reality and reality. So modeling is always an abstraction of reality, but the question is, at what level do you need to represent something? So this is just kind of maybe a philosophical thing, but it's a really important component of that. Also, validation of complex models is challenging because, particularly in field situations, you're not able to control very many things. Actually, almost none of the real things in the real world fire can you really control. So there's always a challenge to when you're trying to evaluate a model to provide a context for how that evaluation will work. In terms of collecting research data on prescribed fires, some of the challenges we encounter are, first of all, actually burning the unit. This can be challenging because the conditions or many other different factors can shut you down. In the United States, a really common thing that shuts us down is concerns about smoke. And I imagine that's probably true elsewhere. But anyway, so prescription window can affect you, smoke. And then resource availability in terms of having the operational people on hand who can conduct the burn. And then in terms of research on burns, some of the challenges are coordinating the research effort across teams, and then particularly minimizing the impact of researchers on the operations, because if what you'll find is if you're a researcher and you get in the way too much, you won't be invited back. So it's really important as researchers that we understand the operational requirements of fires and we don't get in the way. Finally, data integration across all these different kinds of data is challenging and is something where we need some work. And then there's always an effort to get the data collected, but it's difficult to account for how much time it's going to have to deal with it after you get it. So what can I offer my partners here? And when in partners, I'm speaking of all of you. I'm a modeler. I can help with modeling projects. I can help you with things relating to our operational models. I like to work on developing algorithms and analysis. One of the things I really do a lot of is this detailed modeling of fuels and fire. And then particularly, I'm interested in bringing more people into our research prescribed fires and broadening our collaborations there. I think those present great opportunities. Then if you want to work together on proposals or other exchanges, I would be happy to help you out. And gosh, I got another slide here. How am I doing on time? Okay. Yeah, I think that other things that we can offer are case studies. One of the things I'm looking for is case studies for fuel treatment evaluation. So using fuels from Europe or other parts of the world, opportunities to test our models and examine different fuel changes. I'm very interested in working with other people and developing new algorithms to describe fuels and to quantify fire behavior. And then I think there's really a tremendous amount of work to be done in mapping and modeling fuels and fire. And then any new data is always incredibly valuable. So I think these kind of forums serve as a great opportunity for us to exchange and collaborate on different data sets. And I think that's it for me. Thank you very much.